Lakes, California, supercharging a Tesla on the first stop of this trip. This is my first time taking a Tesla out of town, so getting a chance to see what it's like to stop at these supercharging stations along the way and kind of hang out there for half an hour while the car charges up. But it sure is nice having the Tesla on the road. We're heading down to Southern California for a Giants game and hopefully 3 casinos worth of poker. Let's get going. Charging up once again. I am here in Mojave, California. Should be able to make it pretty much to LA on one more charge, and I'll be at the Players Casino. At least that's my plan later on tonight. The Players Casino in Ventura, California. I don't think the games are going to be great or that big, but there's definitely a good start to my experience here, and that is Tesla chargers for free. I wanted to check out the Players Casino because A, I wanted to add another casino to the list that have made the vlog, and B, a dealer named Cordell works there. He was one of the few people who I could talk strategy about back when I started playing about a decade ago, and was one of the first people to actually seem to believe in me as a poker player, and I've always appreciated that. So if you see him, be sure to tip him at that casino. Being a Tuesday night, the only game going on, in addition to 1-2, was 2-3 no limit at this casino, so I decided to jump in. The very first hand I played, I post the blinds in the hijack, and we get an under-the-gun +1 raise. I look down at pocket sixes and make the call. The button calls as well, as does the big blind. So with 60 in the pot, the flop is slightly above average, coming 6-3-3. The original raiser wastes no time, shoving all in for his last $63. I obviously call, hoping that the button or the big blind does as well, but unfortunately they don't. The turn comes another 3, and the river an 8. So we take down a $185 pot on our very first hand. Next hand, I open pocket 8s under the gun to 10, because it still feels to me like I'm playing 1-2, and I get 4 callers. So with 50 in the pot, the flop comes 6-7-9 rainbow. The big blind checks, and I check, not expecting to get any folds from any hands that have me beat, and wanting to be able to see the turn cheaply and avoid a raise. So I check, and it gets checked to the button, who bets 35. The big blind calls, and I call. So with $155 in the pot, the turn comes the 5 of spades, bringing in backdoor spades. The big blind checks. I bet out for $55, and the button thinks about it for a minute and calls. The big blind then does something a bit unorthodox. He check raises to 150. And this is going to be a very difficult spot for me to have him in terrible shape, I feel. But folding is obviously out of the question. And with me holding 2 of the 8s in my hand, I figured that one of these 2 likely has equity against me, so I wouldn't mind getting one of them out. I shove it all in, and the button folds. I have both these guys covered. The big blind calls off his last $75, which was obviously going to happen. So with $605 in the pot, we're heads up to a river. I show my hand, and he shows the last thing that I wanted to see, outside of course, the hand that has me beat, which would be 8-10. He shows me 8 with another spade. And to make matters worse, He has the 3 of spades. He has my nemesis, the octo crab. I am getting free rolled by the octo crab. This is the kind of thing that I have nightmares about. And if you don't know my history against 8-3, check out the end of vlog 6. So I'd have to sweat this one out just to chop the pot. Fortunately, the river comes yet another 8. So we do end up chopping it up. The next hand, I open queens under the gun to 10. The low jack calls and the big blind calls. So with 30 in the pot, the flop is deuce 5-5 rainbow. I bet $15, which is about half the pot. The low jack calls. The big blind folds. So with 60 in the pot, the turn comes a king. I bet $20, and he then makes the call. The river comes a 6, and at this point, it's hard to say what he has. He didn't re-raise me pre-flop, so I think that ace-king is out of the question, and I can't see what other kings he's going to call the flop with at this point. I don't see him slow playing a 5 on 2 streets, so it makes me feel like a pocket pair lower than mine makes a decent amount of sense. I still think it's a good spot to bet for value here, though a lot of people wouldn't do it. I bet $30, and he makes the call. I'm assuming my hand is good, but he looks at my hand and kind of slow rolls the king-jack. So the only card that he could hit on the turn to win, he does. And I would have said nice hand, but who are we kidding? I wouldn't have meant it. The toughest player to beat, by the way, in this game is this guy. In a 9-handed game, it's a $5 flat drop no matter what. Now, there was one hand that I limped in with the low-suited connector because people don't tend to fold. I bet out $5 into the pot. I got 2 folds and $1 in winnings. $5 to the rake, $1 to me. If you want the argument against playing in California, that's it. That $5 flat drop will absolutely eat you alive over time. And this is not as bad as the Commerce, where they take 2 for the bad beat jackpot every hand. The Peppermill taking a $4 max rake and doing it as a percentage of the pot is a lot better. All right, just racked up, booked a $38 loss here at the Players Casino. Not bad, won't complain about it. Shout outs to a couple of guys. We had Sean, who I met early on, and then Chris later on made his way out here. A couple of vlog watchers making an appearance here. Made a pretty bad mistake on a hand where I had raised with pocket 8s and flopped a set. Turned to full house, and I bet fairly big. And a guy who had bluffed me on a smaller hand before that and proved he was kind of a calling station in addition to that, had made the call. And on the river, all the draws bricked out. So I checked, hoping that he would bluff a missed draw. Instead, he just checked back. I didn't see what he had, but I'm just thinking to myself, what am I doing? This is California. Guys are here to call. It's just what you would get and what you're accustomed to if you've played in these games. I spent 4 or 5 hours in this game just seeing a bunch of guys be calling stations, and finally when I got the goods, I expect them to bluff. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. And that mistake took me from what would have been a winning session to a losing session. So keep that in mind when you play in California. Is generally speaking, bluffing is a mistake, and expecting people to bluff is kind of a mistake. Just be value betting your hands. It's all about value. Mistake coming here to 7 Mile Casino. So it's not like, I just kind of assumed that it's the only game in town. You show up, you jump in the game for a couple hours and you leave, kind of like Vegas, but not the case for these California card rooms because there are so many state laws working against them. They're only allowed to have 20 tables in action here at one time here. So they have so much of a demand that the list is like 30 people long on every game. And as I said, only 20 tables, so it's going to be at least an hour, probably more, for me to get into a game here, which means I am out. I have made the trip to 7 Mile, and I am going to play 0 hands. Well, this is a first. Underground Tesla charging. Kind of getting a double whammy. You have to pay to actually get into the garage, and then of course pay to charge. But shout out to this guy with the bright blue Tesla Model X with the orange rear view mirrors and orange rims. That is pretty damn cool. Alright, it is the gas lamp district in San Diego. We're going to check this out for a while, then head in to check out Giants Padres. You don't have to tell me, I know my Giants suck this year. That's okay. Still good to see them. $18 for the seats that we were in before, and we just decided that they kind of sucked. So we moved seats. We moved seats to, well, basically the best seats in the house. Take a look. This is now our view. All right, on the way back in Lone Pine, California, take a look at this. It's the middle of nowhere, really. And we got a full house of Teslas charging up.